Hey BookTube, it's Peg. I am back at the History Shelf. It's been a busy week. It's been a real fun week. Couple of weeks actually. Tomorrow will be a week since my last video. I did an author interview with Jill Watts. It was super exciting. I hope to do more in the future if opportunities present, but I just want to thank you all for your wonderful comments. If you haven't checked it out, just go back into my video archive. You'll see it right there. Jill Watts wrote The Black Cabinet, which was a fantastic history and a much needed history of an important time in America. So I do encourage you to check it out. It's been a very reading heavy week. I've been trying to get ahead on some things, so I just wanted to let you know that I try to do it 2 videos per week, but lately it's been 1. But I am going to try to pick that up again as I complete books. And this is a video I've been wanting to make for a few weeks now. So I apologize for the delay. I'm going to do a dual book review, or just reviewing both of them, not comparing, but they're 2 very different books. And I know especially I think the guys at the Codex Cantina were very excited for me to talk about this first one, Shusaku Endo's book, Sachiko, a novel. This one is not out yet, but it will be out August 4th. It's being put out by Columbia University Press. So I want to talk about some of my initial reactions to that book, and also I read this about over a month ago. This is I think it's just a phenomenal bestseller right now. The Eighth Life by Nino Harataschvili. So this is going to be the historical fiction book review at the History Shelf. By the way, how are you guys doing out there? I feel like I haven't talked to you guys in a little while. Hope you're all spending your reading days safe and cool. We have been having a heat wave just outside of Denver, Colorado.
The kiss sucked?
Yes, it has sucked. Thank you, Martine. Martine's in attendance over here. Yay. Well, let's start this review with Shusaku Endo's Sachiko. This was recent. This is coming out as I said, August 4th. And Columbia University Press has published another book in their Weatherhead Asian series. I think this is, Weatherhead East Asian Institute. It's the Weatherhead Books on Asia, and this is part of that series of books. So Sachiko, and for those of you who don't know who Shusaku Endo is, your best frame of reference will probably be the book Silence, which was made into a major motion picture in 2017 by Martin Scorsese. It was a fabulous movie, and there's an interesting story behind that too with Scorsese. He loved that novel so much, and he wanted to make it all his life. It took him a long time to get someone to back him on the project, but Silence, it focused mostly, I think, in the 17th century Japan, and the missionaries that went there, the Jesuits, I believe, and just what happened to them on the island of Japan, and the martyrdoms and all that kind of stuff. So it was really heavy, but really profound. I really recommend Silence. So when I saw that they were reprinting another novel by Shusaku Endo, I was like, I would love to read it. And Sachiko is actually set in the 20th century. So this book covers the years of 1930 to 1945 in Nagasaki. And it's a love story of sorts between Sachiko and her childhood friend Shuhei. So without giving, I'm not trying to do any spoilers on either one of these books. Normally I'm reviewing history and nonfiction where everyone knows, they already know the outcome. I'm not, so I have to be a little more careful when I'm talking about a novel. But the overall gist is there's two stories actually. Um, and this is what made this one really, really intriguing. Um, we have Sachiko and Shuhei growing up in Nagasaki, uh, playing with their American friends, after school, um, passing a mission along the way, and there were missionaries there. And this is where he blends in two storylines. Um, but they're Catholic. Sachiko and Shuhei, they attend the same Catholic church, the same school. They play with the local American children, whom make an appearance later on. I'm not saying anything more on that. Um, but it's a very traditional type of story. It's not like your usual typical romance. It's written in a very kind of old-fashioned. Um, he's writing from the perspective of both Sachiko and Shuhei, so you can tell when he's trying to like take on, the feminine mind. He might.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that. um, it's kind of antiquated in a way, but it's also endearing. So it's definitely just very, very buttoned down, and I think true to this time and place and culture. Um, so that was very intriguing. I really enjoyed that aspect. Now, the mission comes in where this is where Endo weaves in a second story. So you kind of alternate some chapters, but he weaves in a factual person in the person of Father Maximilian Kolbe, who was a Polish missionary, um, and he was a real person. So I don't think I'm giving anything away. I mean, if you were to look him up, he missioned in Nagasaki for a couple of years, like from 1930 to 1932, and then went back home to Poland right around the time. Well, he went back to Poland, but then as the war ramped up in 1939, he was eventually rounded up as a person of enemy of the state, as it were, after Poland's invasion, and sent to Auschwitz. So those chapters are particularly powerful. Oh my gosh, they were some of the most powerful, and just searing dialogue in a way that it's just so understated and chilling. I wanted to read just one, just a couple of couple of lines of dialogue.
Into the fireplace.
I swear to you, my dogs just riot when I want to make a video. So thanks for sticking with me on this. So early on in the book, you jump from Nagasaki, and at times you jump over to what's going on with Father Kolbe, or Kolbe, and the people with him in this freight car. And there's this powerful scene here. I remember when I read it, it gave me chills. So there's a young man, and he's unnamed, who's in the same car with the father. Okay, we'll start here. So they're in the car, and they're wondering where they're going. They think they know where they're going, but they don't really know the extent. So I'll start here. Can you see the factory? A man standing to his side asked despondently. The young man shook his head, also despondently. They all believed that they were going to be pressed into forced labor at some Nazi munitions factory. Though they had no proof that this would be the case, They assumed that the many people who had been taken from places like the Jewish quarter in Warsaw and loaded into freight cars were being forced into harsh labor. See anything? No. The young man focused his bloodshot, weary eyes on the horizon. Black forms appeared in the distance. The dark forms gradually took on the shape of row after row of military barracks-like buildings. The steam locomotive, as though announcing that they were approaching their destination, gave a whistle that sounded like a shrill scream. "There's some smokestacks off in the distance," the young man told those around him. Tall smokestacks. Just those two words right there, it gave me chills because you know what those smokestacks were. This is, again, just for these chapters alone on Father Kolbe and the concentration camp is worth this book alone. But after he kind of moves from that, we go back into the journey of Sachiko and Shuhei as they grow older, because again, we're covering the years of 1930 to 1945. And you see them kind of, emerge into their personalities and grow stronger, or, kind of a push and a pull there. The other theme of the book is just the persecution that the Japanese Christians had to endure from their own government. Because even though they were allowed to have these Catholic churches, people who were Christian at the time in Japan were looked on with suspicion, because Christianity was considered a foreign religion. And as the World War II moved closer and closer, loomed closer and closer on the horizon, people looked at the Christians as if they were traitors, that they might be in league with the Europeans, the Americans, anyone who shared that faith. So they were already persecuted. And at the same time as that, you had individual people, such as Sachiko and Shuhei, dealing with their own personal spiritual issues of what it meant to be a Christian, especially in wartime. If you're Christian, how can you take up arms and kill another human being? So it kind of brings in those elements of how can you bow out of that war without being considered someone who's not patriotic, who doesn't love their country, because they love their country, but they were also against killing, and they looked to the Catholic Church for guidance, and the church was silent, which again is another huge overarching theme, I think, throughout Endo's work. Just like with silence, that book said it all. He writes a lot about the silence of God. And in this book, it also talks about the silence of the church. And I think the church at that time was also persecuted, and they couldn't provide the guidance to people who were searching for answers on an individual basis. Should I do this? Can I go to war and kill someone else and still be considered a Christian, worthy of salvation? So there is pretty heady themes, and this book makes you think on a lot of levels what the meaning of sacrifice is. There's so many different levels of sacrifice going on in this book. I plan on rereading it. I just think that you can't get everything out of it on the first read, because again, there is some really profound spiritual themes going on here. And as I said, the chapters on the Polish missionary, the father, were just wow, took my breath away, really. And in the end, I'm not trying to give away anything. I just recommend you read this book. It was another great work by Shusaku Endo. And in fact, I know that there's another book that and its timeline precedes this one, and it's called Kiku's Prayer. And I think Columbia University Press also publishes that. And it actually takes it, the story, not the same story, but it covers a period about 100 years before this, which this book also references. And there's footnotes and little annotations at the bottom. The translator, who was his friend in his life, but you get like really, really helpful notes at the bottom that reference things that were mentioned in Kiku's Prayer and factual events that happened in that time frame. Because Endo also, he talks a lot about the different times of Japanese Christian persecution that extended from the time that it was even, the first time it was practiced there, and that there were Christians in Japan. They've always had to deal with being looked on as outsiders, as dangerous, as enemies of the state. So, again, this was a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. I have notes. I would love to say more, but I really, I don't want to have to, give anything away from the reading of it, because it's just outstanding. All right, so now we're moving on to the, nearly 1,000, it's 934 pages. The Eighth Life, and I should have said this is put out by Scribe. This is the first English translation of this book. It was published in German, I think in 2014. Pretty sure of that. And, wow. You know what? Let me just say on a personal note that I've been reading history and nonfiction for so long, and I used to read fiction when I was younger. And I'm trying to get back into it, and this was like one of my first, like, I want to lose myself in a book and have that feeling again, which I haven't had in a very long time. Normally I lose myself in a very huge history of something. So I went into this book like, okay, well, keep an open mind. I'm going to, do a review on it. I swear to you, within the first 30 pages, I mean, I couldn't stop turning pages. It was just written, it was written like a song, and the characters are so finely drawn, and it's like this, I called this what did I call this? The War and Peace of the 20th century. With a seemingly almost all-female cast. Now, no, there are men, male characters in this book, but this is I think, a very female-centric, kind of a woman power, a woman empowerment type of book. The main characters, and I hope this wouldn't turn off any male readers, because I think you can learn something from each one of these characters, and there's sections of the book that are broken up into like book 1, book 2, and so you see the Eighth Life. Try not to give away anything, but you kind of follow 7 different lives in this book. Now we start off historically at the tail end of the Russian Revolution. I think the white soldiers are still trying to fight in white with a capital W, the loyalists to the Tsar. The Bolsheviks had just about taken over, but there were still some who were fighting to secure the Tsar. But by this time, in the beginning, you start off with this very strong character, Stasia. And what happens from here, without giving too much away, oh yeah, it's just a fabulous book. I can't say enough about it, but it starts off around the Russian Revolution, and she meets her husband, and then okay, so then you start having the children, and then it's a family epic. So it goes through generations. It takes you all the way through the 20th century, and they live in the Republic of Georgia. So very close to Russia, and then at the time of um, Stalin, Stalin is from Georgia, obviously. Um, there's a lot of like communist infiltration. One of the characters in here is never named, but you know who he is in history. He's given like another moniker, but he's never named, but you know which like head communist this guy was, and he was just like this beast um, who interacts with one of the characters in this book. Uh, so you kind of have the whole gamut of Soviet Union history, how it interacted with Georgia. Um, Again, very strong female characters. I think my only critique about this book is I thought that the male characters were a bit weak. But maybe that was by design. I don't know. And don't get me wrong, there were a lot of damaged people in this book, male and female. Um, but it seemed like the men just could not get their crap together, if you know what I'm saying. But there were a lot of things they had to deal with. It takes you through World War One. It takes you through World War Two. There are a lot of loves in this book, like love stories, um, loves lost and found, and uh, gosh, I can't say too much without giving anything away, but it also there's this little theme running through it about this chocolate recipe, which I think is an interesting little hook, although I don't think it really plays into the overall. Um, when I first started reading the book, there's this secret family recipe on this chocolate, hot chocolate, that the father passes down to Stasia and has her swear on her life that she will never share this recipe with anyone else, and that you can only make it very, very rarely, only in times of urgent need for someone else. Um, because if you abuse it, bad things will happen. It's supposed to be like some type of curse or something. So throughout the book, here and there, you have the return of the fabled, cursed hot chocolate. But I'll let you decide what you think, how that kind of plays into what happens throughout the book. Um, anyway, all I can say is for those who love epics, family epics, sagas, and I do. When I was a kid, I loved reading John Jake's books. The oh the There's a John Jake's Kent Family Chronicles. Thank you. I was thanking myself. It wasn't you. The Kent Family Chronicles. Like, I love books that follow a family, follow the descendants, and this is what this is, really. I appreciated it from the standpoint of a woman, reading about very strong women, um, but knowing as well the horrors of the 20th century. No one escapes unscathed. And I mean, it's just, there's a lot of there's a lot of brutality of war. There's also the tension between men and women that never seems to get resolved. But she always seems to find, Nino Harataschvili, the author, always seems to find a way to show that um, above everything else, these women just kept fighting. They were fighters, and they kept fighting for the next life that would come, to fight for a better life for that next life that would come. So I think that was probably the main message of hope that I took from it. But again, 932 pages. You'd think it reads so well. You just fall in love with many of the characters, almost all of them. They're so interesting. They're all different, and the dialogue is very real. How people talk to each other. Um, there's nothing, hokey or cheesy about it. It seemed like I was reading an insider's history, of a real family, and I loved it, and I hope that she will follow up with some type of. I don't know how you could follow this up. I think this is just a standalone. It's just a masterpiece. I'm just gonna say it because I'm very hard to please when it comes to fiction and especially historical fiction. And I knew when I looked up and realized 2 hours had passed and I'd read over 100 pages.
The dogs were starving.
And the dogs were starving because I hadn't fed them dinner. I realized, wow, I'm having that moment with a book that I haven't had in forever. So, The Eighth Life. I'm telling you guys, this was fantastic. And I know a few of you out there who comment in my videos love Russian history, looking at you, Kara. Love all things Russian. And I know this book is on your list of things to read. I hope you've started reading it. It is amazing. So if anyone out there has read this book or is thinking about it, let me know in the comments below. I would love to talk about it with another reader. In fact, I love this so much, and this is like my advanced reader copy. I was thinking of loaning it to my sister, but then I'm going to ask for it back. I would probably reread this again. In fact, I know I would, because it was just a joy to read. This woman is a very talented writer. So there you have it, guys. Here's my my twofer, my book reviews of Sachiko by Shusaku Endo. Very highly recommend this. And then The Eighth Life by Nino Harataschvili. Highly recommend. So we've got two winners here on the history shelf. And yeah, what can I say? I hope I have this experience again with historical fiction really soon. Knock on wood. Woo, don't want to jinx myself, but wow, it was good stuff. All right, guys. Well, I know I'm going to make another video very soon. I have some new arrivals here. Several books that I need to show you. I have written my review of Poland, 1939, which was a really fantastic read and a much needed contribution to World War II historiography. I have that review is up at Open Letters Review right now if you want to go check that out. I'm thinking of doing a short review on this channel in case some of you just don't want to go and read the review. So I'll make a quick video on that because I think I've covered a lot of my feelings on that book in my written review, but I'll share some video reactions to it. Yeah, let's see. I have got more books. I will also make a video just kind of giving you an update on where I'm at with my reading. I'm about halfway through on the book that I was the winner of the book review poll, The Breakaway Americas. That was the winning book. But I'm also working on the other two to also review for you guys. So there's a lot going on here at the History Shelf. I apologize for not having a video up sooner. It's just been a very busy work week, reading week, writing week, but it's been exciting. And I look to do more exciting things on this channel and bring you guys even more content. If there's anything in particular that you would like to see on this channel, let me know. Any books that you're hoping that I might have or have read, if you want a suggestion or a recommendation, I'm happy to help. So, having said that, guys, hope you're having a great night. Be safe, be well, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.